Hello, good evening. I think it's evening, right? Ish. I haven't been outside in a minute. So this is McJumpBox Leveraging Free Corporate Wi-Fi and 802.11ah for unattributable fun and profit. Also, Wi-Fi wormhole. Was still kind of ideating on my cool marketing term for what this project was called, and unfortunately discovered the Wi-Fi wormhole has much better alliteration and sounds cooler, and is also much less likely to get me sued by McDonald's. So probably going to refer to it as the rest of the refer to it as that throughout the rest of the talk. So yeah, and then we could put cool worm animations in the PowerPoint slide, which is always fun. So we have a little bit of an agenda. I'll go over who I am, kind of the inspiration for this, some information about sub-megahertz Wi-Fi networks, and then the chips. There are so many chips. There are chips that I love, there are chips that I hate, there are chips that work, there are chips that don't. We'll get into that a little bit, as well as kind of go into the process of both trying to build something as well as buy something, whichever is easiest. I love easy things, so we'll get into that a bit. We'll get into eventually someone made the thing that I was trying to build, and then we will reverse engineer that a little bit and figure out how to build our own version of that for less money. So with that said, before we get into who I am I not? I am not a person that is here on behalf of any company. I am in fact a self-sponsored weirdo, and so if there is something in this presentation that upsets you, I would love for you to come make yourself known during the Q&A directly to me, as opposed to trying to find out who my employer is and making it so I can't pay my mortgage. So a little bit about me. I am Lozanning. I use they, them pronouns. I am the creator of the International Wiggle Space Balloon, if you all are familiar with that at all. As well as the creator of the Wi-Fi, the manufacturer of RF field cams, and if you were in the village last year, I gave a talk on what I still believe to be the first toothbrush botnet that was ever created, based on some ESP32-based Wi-Fi enabled toothbrushes for whatever reason. And then as also you can see, graphic design is in fact my passion. Cool. Yeah, so as a, pretty visibly queer person, I always want to say that radio is for everyone. I've always found the RF Village to be extremely welcoming, and I just want to affirm that if you're here, you belong, and we're so happy to have you. All right, so kind of the impetus for this project. So many years back at DEF CON, I don't exactly remember which one. If anybody has a clearer recollection of this than I have, I would love to hear from you during the Q&A. But essentially the idea was that someone was going to give a talk on the main stage where they're going to explain how they had created some kind of device that you could hook up onto the roof of some kind of building, probably McDonald's, that had free Wi-Fi, and you could drive some untold miles away and connect to that thing that you had thrown on the roof by connecting to kind of a partner device that you had kept with you. And then the talk got canceled. And I don't know if it's because like the person that was supposed to give the talk got sick. There was a lot of rumors swirling around that it was like 3 other agencies showed up and put the kibosh on it, and they're like, people aren't allowed to have untrackable internet connectivity. And so if anyone out there has any clarity on that, I would love to hear from you. But essentially, yeah, ever since I had heard about the idea of that talk, I found the idea of essentially being able to leverage low power, long range networks to be able to put geographic distance between you and wherever the connection was kind of originating from. So I think this talk was supposed to happen like 7-8 years ago maybe, so I've been trying to build this thing for a while, and kind of the technology is just now finally starting to kind of get there, so excited to tell you about how that journey goes. So we can't have wormholes without worm goals. And so as far as kind of the MVP, like what's the minimum viable product that we want? As far as we want to be able to hook something up on the roof of a Starbucks. We want that device to be able to connect to the Starbucks, the McDonald's, or the Arby's Wi-Fi, what have you. Ideally, it's going to be low power, so whatever built-in battery it has is going to last for a while. We need at least 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and we need some kind of wormhole radio. And then as far as nice-to-haves go, it would be cool to have solar panel. That way, we could throw it on the roof, and it would be able to maintain its own charge and continue to broadcast kind of indefinitely. 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi would be fun. kind of my assumption is that anywhere you're going to find a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, you're probably going to find a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network. So kind of a nice to have. Multi-client support. So like if we huck one thing up onto the roof of McDonald's, like what if me and my friend both want to hack the Pentagon at the same time? Well, okay, then like we need to figure out how to have that device that's up on the roof be able to handle more than one client. So it's like hard coding stuff in. If it works, great for one person, but if we can dream, we could be able to support multiple clients at the same time. Ethernet would be fun, although we can certainly create a wormhole without Ethernet at all. So things that we don't care about, I don't really care about kind of the topology of the network, routing versus bridging, where routing is happening versus where bridging is happening versus among the various like network segments, whether or not you're a DHCP server or you're a DHCP kind of requester. It doesn't matter. All I want to achieve is an end-to-end connectivity. So kind of with those goals in mind, we get to my plan so far. I don't know if you've noticed all of the various projects that I had talked about in my kind of about me. Exclusively our ESP32 based project, kind of a one-trick pony. So, plan so far is that we're going to have an ESP32. We're going to have a bunch of hot glue, and then we're going to have, I think if my animations work, we're going to have an 802.11ah, aka Wi-Fi Halo radio, that is also attached to our ESP32 using some hot glue and probably some wires. So, a little bit about 802.11ah. It was published in 2017. So coming up on 10 years here, it is in fact a full IEEE standard. It is, the IEEE 802.11ah. If you kind of want to wrap your mind around how this technology works, if you're familiar at all with how 802.11a or G works, this is essentially the same thing except downclocked. You only get 26 channels of 100 kilobits throughput, and you can kind of combine some of those channels and mix and match, and kind of eventually get to a data rate up to 347 megabits, which is pretty substantive for a protocol that purports to work at multiples of kilometers. So we've got both bandwidth and distance. So we've also got, even though it's based on 802.11ag as far as kind of the signaling protocol goes, the security that's built in, because this kind of came about in 2017, is actually pretty up to date. So, you've got SHA-256, 384, 512, as well as critically WPA3 encryption, so nobody can spoof our management frames. So, my terrible critical character flaw is that if I had spent as much time looking for the thing that I wanted to buy that I had hoped someone else had already designed, if I'd spent that same amount of time just like learning how to build circuit boards or be a real engineer, like I'd have had a degree. But alas, scrolling through Alibaba is significantly easier, and I truly believe that anything that you are trying to make, probably somebody else has already built, or at least 90% of it. So we got on Alibaba and we went shopping, and the first device that we bought to try and make a wormhole is the Seed Studio. I never had to say this word out loud, actually. Zao, I think, maybe? We'll go with Zao. So this is a QuickTel-based Halo chip that has been put on a dev board by Seed Studios. You can kind of see there's a... so you can see there's kind of a socket down there with through holes below the radio itself, and that's where you would put in one of their ESP32 modules. And so this is kind of a pretty slick piece of kit. I don't know if you can tell from the picture. You definitely can tell from the picture. It's super small. Like that QuickTel chip is like probably the size of your thumbnail. And so the Seed chip, or the ESP32 that would slot into the socket on the bottom, also the size of your thumbnail. So like, this is a very small device. Great for throwing on a ruse. Theoretically, we love it. Unfortunately, I hate this device. It is one of my least favorite devices for a whole multitude of reasons. The first one is like I said, I'm very lazy. I want the easy way out, always, which means that I would prefer to program my ESP32s using the Arduino IDE. Can't do that. Their library does not support the Arduino IDE at all. You are going to use the Express-if IDF, not the Arduino one. So all the kind of the boilerplate stuff that Arduino was doing for you in the background on your behalf that you didn't know about, like, you're manually implementing all that now. So you get to program the whole thing. You have full control. Unfortunately, not only do you need to use the expressive IDF, you need to use the one from June 2023. And that sucks, because Expressive is actually pretty good about updating their IDF with new functionality, new features, security updates, stuff like that. So the fact that we need to use this very old library, not our favorite. But the reason I hate these devices is that they don't support AP mode. At least not with the ESP32 library. And so this kind of starts my journey of discontent with the manufacturers and the library providers of these devices, because we'll see that kind of they're really leaving a lot to be desired as far as kind of documentation and support, and letting you program on like up-to-date tools from at least this year. And so while this device was very small and imminently throwable, if we have two of them, we can have one that's a client, and we can have another one as a client. And that doesn't make a network. You need one of them to be an access point. But since the library doesn't support that, this idea is, not going to work at all. Luckily, there is more than just Seed Studio out there as far as companies that are making weird dev boards. And so Lilygo, after Seed Studio had come out with their kind of ZOW board, came out with the Lilygo T Halo. It's ESP32 based. It also has Ethernet, which was one of the things that we wanted from our wish list above and beyond the MVP. I checked before I bought it this time. The library does in fact support standing the device up in AP and station mode, and so we can be both kind of the client side and the server side. So it also has an 18650 holder on the back, so we don't have to worry about the battery. So like you stick an 18650 in the back of that thing, you throw it wherever you want, and now you can connect back to it from several kilometers away. So it looks like the perfect device. It really truly does. Unfortunately, I hate this device even more. Because it's so close to what we wanted, right? Like it had all the stuff. It had stuff that we wanted even above and beyond, like the MVP, had stuff in the wish list, love that Ethernet, love that 18650 on the back. But the way that this device was conceptualized and then brought into fruition, unfortunately, is very silly. And so now we're getting into the curious design choices of the T Halo. So there's a Wi-Fi radio, there's an Ethernet port, and there's a Halo radio. And the way that those devices are all connected together is phenomenally unsensical. So there's two modes for these devices. The way that you switch between the two modes on this device is you need to pop a flash ROM off the board. You need to have not thrown away the box that the device was sent to you in. You needed to have known that there was another tiny little chip in there, and that you needed to save that, and then pop the chip that came in the board off, and then put this kind of replacement chip in there, and that'll switch between the two modes. And so in the two modes, we have mode 1, and that's where the Halo radio is connected to the ESP via serial, and the ESP can both control the Halo radio as well as send it data, but that is strictly over serial UART. So if you remember back from when I was explaining kind of the technical capabilities of 802.11ah, we can hit like over 300 megabit. Like we're not going to do that at 960 baud, the 9600 baud over serial UART. Like that's not how that works. And so I just genuinely at a loss as to why you would connect a microcontroller to a radio that kind of the idea behind that radio is that it's long range and high speed, and then connect to your microcontroller to it with just this like the world's tiniest little interface. So yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to hit the high throughput that we would want to, and that we should be able to hit based on the specs of the radio. Unfortunately, we can't pass data into the interface of the radio as fast as the radio can send information out of its RF side. So Again, very silly. I don't get why you would do it this way. Mode 2, the Ethernet port is connected directly to the Halo radio. And now you do all your configuration of the Halo radio via the extra micro USB port that is also on the device. So the device is normally powered by USB-C or the 18650 battery. But in mode 2, you can also connect a micro USB to a computer, and then you can send AT commands. Which means that the ESP32 in mode 2 is in no way connected to any of the other chips on the board. I mean, physically they are, but as far as like logically, there's nothing there. So like in mode 2, your ESP32 is just riding along on that board for fun. So again, like, I do not know. Really boggles the mind, because usually in my experience, Lilygo doesn't build a dev board and like offer it for sale on their website unless like somebody's got some kind of use case where they expect like to sell 10,000 of them a month, right? And they'll happily do that if you've got some kind of like cool whiz bang mesh-tastic board you want them to build. Like, you email them and they'll make it, and so I'm sure. So the question was whether or not you're able to kind of like queue up commands and then send them all at the same time. Is that? I mean, well, I suppose, yeah, if you're like trying to like prefetch data into the chip and then you could like send it all at the same time. Yeah, I mean, probably, but I spent all my time scrolling Alibaba looking for chips to buy as opposed to learning how to be an engineer. And I will never change. No. Yeah, if anyone else has questions along the way, please, I'm happy to answer them now or at the end. Doesn't really matter to me. Okay, so thankfully there are a few problems that can be solved by adding even more ESP32s to a project. The Wi-Fi has 14 of them. A little hot glue and a little ESP32 action goes a long way. So initially we wanted to go from the McDonald's Wi-Fi network into the Wi-Fi radio, which was then going to go into the Halo radio, which was then going to go over our wormhole link, into the Halo radio on the other side, and then kind of out the Wi-Fi radio on the local device that we would keep with us. But I'm not afraid of a little bit of hot glue and Ethernet, and so I went and bought ESP32 Ethernet dev boards, and then, as you can see from the picture on the right, just went ahead and just cabled them together. And so if you're going to disconnect the ESP32 on the board that I bought in order for me to use the radio in the mode that I want to, that's fine. I'll just get an Ethernet port that's connected to another ESP32. Like, it's fine. Like, we can go Inception level. We can get Russian Matryoshka doll. I will continue to add even more ESP32s to things until they work. I think we got a little video here. Yeah. So it's still a cool little form factor. If this device worked, it'd be cool and cyberpunky, and I would love it. Unfortunately, that was not entirely the case. Oh. Okay, so what do the multiple now in our project ESP32s on that board do? So on the Ethernet dev board, ESP that is local, so that's going to be the one that is in your car with you after you've driven away from McDonald's, that you're going to connect your computer to so that you can connect back to the other one. So that device is going to need to stand up its own access point. It's going to need to handle DHCP for all of its AP clients. It's going to need to request an IP from the upstream Ethernet port, and then we're going to need to figure out how to do either bridging or routing or forwarding traffic between the Wi-Fi and the internet interfaces. And then again, as we discussed before, the other ESP, the one that's actually on that T-Halo board, does absolutely nothing. And then the Ethernet dev board ESP that's up on the roof of McDonald's, we need that one to be able to connect to the McDonald's network. We need to be able to request an IP, and then again, we need to figure out how to forward, route, bridge, send data back and forth between those two interfaces. And then again, the second ESP on this one is also doing nothing. Integration hell. Figuring out how to do this was very challenging, not gonna lie. So trying to figure out where the fragility in this thing that I was attempting to make, somewhat challenging. I have plenty of stuff that is able to monitor 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. I have not a single device. If anyone knows of one, please tell me what it is. Actually, the village staff would love to know too, actually. If you know of a Halo device that we can put in monitor mode so that we can look at the traffic and, yeah? Oh, I'll talk to you after. Yeah, so without being able to have any kind of like true insight into the ground truth of what is actually happening in the RF environment, very hard to figure out what exactly is happening. Also, I'm a hobbyist programmer, and so maybe it's my code, maybe it's the RF environment, maybe it's the libraries. Tried a lot of stuff, could get like a segment to work or a segment to work, but then like routing stuff, end to end. Very troublesome. To further complicate the matter, I said the ESP32 that's on that board is no longer doing anything because the Halo radio is connected directly to the Ethernet module. Well, so it turns out you can actually program that Halo module. So you could switch between mode 1 and mode 2, but if you were so inclined, and I'm not, you could write your own firmware that would dictate. You could make up your own mode 3, and so it's that flash chip that goes in the socket on that board that's actually dictating how the Halo radio works. And so that's going to dictate whether or not when these two devices, when one's a client and one's in, whether when one's an AP and one's a client, what's the subnet that you're going to assign the IP of my client to? All of that stuff, 100% is taken care of and set in that flash chip. So I don't know how to program it. I don't want to learn. And you can't make me. So, some victories are not worth winning. Eventually, I was able to put some bits into one end of the wormhole and get some bits out of the other end. Unfortunately, if I were to measure the throughput of what I was able to, observe in kind of real life, even slower and even worse than the connection between the original ESP32 and the Halo radio that was on the board via that serial UART link. So countless hours of trying to program things and hot glue things together, only to make a thing that works even worse than the thing that I was trying to make a thing better than. So that one was a little bit sad. So. I do believe that if the thing that you want to make was such a good idea, somebody would have already made it, which again, love the scroll Alibaba. And so, I had been trying to make this thing and bring it to fruition and could never figure it out. And I was like, well, okay, maybe it's stupid. But actually, because I thought of it first, and then Heltech made this product, I feel like I've achieved full vindication and complete validation of how good all of my ideas are. So this is our Lord and Savior, the Heltech Halo dongle. This is probably the slickest, as a person who's, buying some kind of weird ESP32 type device, like probably weekly. This is absolutely the slickest bit of kit I have bought in probably 2 years. So this device, it's got a 2.4 gigahertz radio. It's got a 900 megahertz Halo radio. It's got an Ethernet port on the bottom. It's got a USB-C port that you can power it through. Additionally, the USB-C port will actually work as, what's it called? Ethernet gadget. So like on the Raspberry Pi Zero Dub is like you plug those into your computer and like they'll initialize as like a Ethernet port. And so the USB-C on this will work very similarly. So yeah, I'm in for two. And so I open them up, I plug them in, connect the AP to my home Wi-Fi, configure the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi on the client side. And we're zooming, like it just works. Like these ones, as opposed to being just like bare chips that I need to go write all my own firmware for. This is certainly much more of like a finished product that Heltech is selling. You're certainly not intended to like configure this, sure, but like program it, absolutely not. So one of the first things I did was, okay, I have these two devices and they're connected to each other. How far can I actually get them to talk? And so I'm happy to report that 1.67 miles is actually the furthest I could figure out how to maintain line of sight, and so it's not that necessarily that the radio wouldn't have been able to go 2 miles. It's that I couldn't find anywhere that I would have 2 miles of unbroken line of sight. I was limited to, this was as clever as I could get, was utilizing the line of sight of the Mississippi River. So how fast can we go now that we've got our wormhole? As you can see here, I suppose this data is a little bit messy. I had hoped to refine it a little bit more, but I did have a tree fell on my house 2 weeks ago, which kind of took up a lot of my time. And so kind of interspersed with this data, there's a lot of data here that's representing more than just the speed and distance. There's also antenna orientation, which is not on this graph, but is in the data the graph is based on. And we'll get into that. So I made an app, and that's where this data comes from. I needed a way to be able to kind of characterize the performance of this network so that I could tell you all how good or bad that it worked. And so the app, very simple, and the entire idea of it is essentially that you're able to mark where your AP device is, and then you're able to define an iPerf server, and then as you walk around, I think I even have this. So then as you walk around, you can either hit the button and it'll manually kick off an iPerf test, and then wherever you are, when you've kicked that test off, it'll tag those GPS coordinates kind of to that entry. And then along with that, since it's an Android app, we're able to get gyroscopic data from the phone itself. And so as I was walking around testing, actually ended up holding the Halo module up against the back of my phone, and that way whatever the orientation of my, if I can hold the mic in, try and pantomime, whatever the orientation of my phone is what the orientation of the antenna would be. Because one of the things that I was curious about was whether or not I needed to be worried about whether or not the antennas were in parallel. So with kind of the way these antennas are polarized, I was worried that if I threw one of these things onto the roof of someplace and then it was laying flat on the ground as opposed to the antenna being vertical, if that was just absolutely going to decimate my speed. And so I wanted to be able to record the throughput of various antenna orientations, as well as the characteristics of the speed versus distance. So I didn't quite have the time to pull that data out and graph it, but what I can tell you kind of more anecdotally is that the closer you can maintain the orientation of the antennas between the two devices, the more likely you are to be able to maintain a link. So like the orientation doesn't seem to have much of an effect on overall speed. It's more of a binary thing. Like if you're too far or pointing the wrong way, you're just not going to get anything, as opposed to it being like slower. So the idea works. Like you could go buy these things off of the Heltech website or Amazon.com right now. And absolutely, they check all the boxes, on the MVP, and then some of the things, from the wish list. But $70 is a lot of money, especially to be just like hucking onto the roof of someplace. So I'm also very cheap, so I can figure out how to do something for cheaper than obviously, we're going to do that every time. If we're hucking stuff on the roof, we got to worry about weather. We got to worry about people that are supposed to be on the roof finding things that are not supposed to be on the roof, heat, UV damage, birds crapping on your solar panel. I don't know, one of the pictures from at the very beginning on the project that I worked on, the RF field cams, there's bird shit on that solar panel, and that device stopped reporting in for the worldwide ward drive. And cost me several places in the contest. So you got to watch out for the birds if you're doing solar stuff, as it turns out. So the cheaper, kind of more disposable. If you are familiar with the concept of LED throwies, I love the idea of network throwies. I've always thought that was fascinating. So if we could figure out how to make this thing cheaper, let's figure out how to make it cheaper. Ours doesn't need to have the full feature parity. I don't necessarily care if we are able to get USB Ethernet widget out of the USB-C port. I don't even know that we need to have a USB-C port. Really, we just need to figure out how to get the thing powered. So, what's actually inside this thing, and how does it work? So it's got an MT7628. But we're ESP32 guys, and we don't know what those are. So here's the, I guess, non-ESP32 MCUs do exist, I guess. And so I am like, this is one of my favorite new things that I've discovered in a minute. So I love to make embedded war driving equipment, and so predominantly that's all based on ESP32s, which don't run an operating system, right? That's a microcontroller. It's running a real-time OS. You program your own firmware on top of it. This device runs OpenWRT, which is great because that means that we're able to select all of our configuration outside of compiling code. That was one of the things that really slowed me down when it came to like kind of troubleshooting, my own kind of more DIY implementations of this. Was trying to figure out like what layer the issue was at. Was it because my code was wrong, or was it because I was bridging and I needed to be routing? And so by virtue of this being an OpenWRT, you would configure the interfaces on this exactly in the same manner that you would configure the interfaces on any other OpenWRT device you may have worked in the past. So, so these devices, let's see. Yeah, so these devices, you can connect a whole multitude of things up to them. So this chip here, it's got 4 Ethernet. I mean, like not like broken out, but as far as like what the GPIO supports, it's got 4 Ethernet ports. It supports SPI, PCM. It's got 2 UART. It does USB host. It does whatever the opposite of USB host is, which is escaping me right now. I2C. And what's it? Oh, BWM, so you need to get hella LEDs on there. Everyone loves that. And then PCI Express as well. So like, if you've got some kind of like modern day recent Wi-Fi card, like odds are very good that in some manner you'd be able to connect it up to this device. So really excited about kind of some of the opportunities for building off even my knowledge of knowing that this thing even exists at all. So yeah, these cost $15. And then the Halo radio, so this is the exact same Halo module that would come on, the Heltech dongles, the HCO one, $13.90. So essentially, all you have to figure out how to do is connect the SDIO interface out of the Halo radio into the the GPIO pins that are the equivalent interface on the OpenWRT module. So do that via breadboard, spin up your own PCB, what have you. But so you can make it for give or take $40. So we've essentially cut the cost of the devices that we're going to throw onto the roof of places in half. So that's always fun. So as far as the software to kind of run our own DIY thing, again, lazy person, don't want to reinvent the wheel. We're running the same MCU, we're running the same radio. Heltech, wonderfully, has provided their OpenWRT firmware. And so we can just use that because we're using all the same stuff. So yeah, there's there we go, yeah. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff that gets enabled by virtue of us being able to run OpenWRT. So not only did I mention that like all of your networking configuration options is something that you can like hit the Lua interface and set after you've configured the device. You don't have to like recompile the entire thing from scratch. But there's also a lot of OpenWRT packages that are out there that are massively helpful. So the first one of those is going to be TravelMate. I don't know if you all are familiar with like what's it called, the barrel like travel router series, like the little gray kind of like ovally guys. So this was a thing that was kind of born out of that. And the original impetus for it was that you were at a hotel and you'd connect this thing to their Wi-Fi and then you connect all your stuff to that thing's own Wi-Fi, and that way you wouldn't have to pay for like multiple devices, to connect to Caesars or what have you. But one of the features that somebody added, a little bit later, was that you can set this up such that it will run a script that you can define based on whatever the name of the Wi-Fi network is that you just connected to, or its MAC address, which means that we can tell it that if we've just connected to the McDonald's Wi-Fi, that we should run this script and we should make a curl request to this URL endpoint, which will then satisfy the captive portal that we're a real person who definitely acknowledge the EULA and are not intending to drive several miles down the street and hack the Pentagon. And one of the other things, so you can add iPerf. So on that speed testing data that you had seen previously, I was curious to see what the actual internet routing speed was. So most of that data is actually the iPerf server is running on a server in my house, and then I'm bridging all the way into my house from the device that would be on the McDonald's roof, and so that's like actual real world bandwidth. But if you were so inclined for whatever reason, you could have just installed iPerf on the actual AP device, and then specified that IP address in the app when you were going around and collecting the speed data for all of it. So, and then one of the things that I'm most excited about, not necessarily for the wormhole, but for these modules themselves, is that you can run Kismet on these. I don't know that it's necessarily the most up-to-date version of Kismet. I think it's maybe I don't know, might need a little bit of tender care and love as far as when you go to configure the device and set it up. But one of the things that I'm most excited to kind of explore from here is figuring out how to leverage kind of these OpenWRT SOC modules, multiple and parallel, to essentially be able to create kind of a my Wi-Fi device, if you're familiar with that, or the Wi-Fi Coconut, if you're familiar with that. Because these chips have the ability to interface with Wi-Fi cards that a lot of the more embedded microcontroller stuff that I'm more familiar with typically isn't able to, right? So if you got a Wi-Fi 7 Wi-Fi card, probably that's going to be PCI Express, which this module actually does have, which an ESP32 does not. And so kind of the world of recent up-to-date Wi-Fi radios that become available to you to add to your project if you're using one of these modules goes up pretty significantly. So do with this information what you will. I think it would be absolutely lovely if one of you if somebody had said that maybe about a 900 megahertz card that supports monitor mode, I know Leonard would absolutely love you if you contributed a PR to the Enzyme Network Defense Project that enabled that project to be able to track and locate and trilaterate 900 megahertz devices. Or, I don't know, throw this thing on the roof of McDonald's and DDoS the Pentagon. It's really up to you. So, with that, I'll open it up to you questions and hopefully maybe answers. So the question was what is the impact on line of sight and okay, there's a singular brick wall. What's that going to do? I'm trying to think how to. I suppose I'm trying to calculate the data in my head. I would say that at a near distance. Okay, so if I've got one of these devices in my living room and I'm out on the street directly outside of my house, I could stream YouTube video all day, and it's not going to be an issue. But you're going to see the rate at which your speed will drop off will increase if you've got broken line of sight. So if you can maintain line of sight, I have always had to brake. I can't get far enough away and maintain line of sight. I mean, I guess I could go drive out into a field or a cornfield or something. But you can. I'm trying to think at there's an impact, but it's I suppose the impact is more impactful as you get further away. So if you're super close, because it's 900 megahertz, which is a low frequency, you'd expect that to go through walls and propagate through things. For Wi-Fi what 7, like the 6 gigahertz stuff. Like you can't get that in the next room. But this is a much lower frequency, but it's also much lower power. And so like you'll be able to propagate through a wall, but like that wall is going to suck up like, I don't know, half of your kind of your transmitted power essentially, or not suck it up, but kind of scatter it and distribute it. And so you get much better results with line of sight, especially if you're trying to be like 4 kilometers away. If you're within like 100 feet, I don't think it's that impactful at all.
How programmable are the radios on the Heltech devices?
So on the Lilygo T Halos, those are fully programmable. I mean, granted, like you need to pull the flash chip out of the socket and like understand how they're, well, I don't know, I'm like, how does the SDK, where do I download the SDK for this? And so for those ones, like, so as far as I'm aware, like they're very versatile and programmable. And then as far as like the context of like within OpenWRT, the way that you configure the Halo radio in OpenWRT is like literally identical to the way that you would configure any other 2.4, 5 gigahertz, 6 gigahertz radio in OpenWRT. So like if you've got even like, so like all of those packages that I'd mentioned, none of those were like designed with compatibility for 802.11 AH in mind. But like OpenWRT is like doing some abstraction for us there, such that like, you write your like Lua plugins and those act on like a interface object as opposed to the specifics of that actual thing. So you can configure it as much as you could configure anything on OpenWRT, I suppose, would be my answer to that. Did that answer it?
Other technologies to just point to one, like you configure it to just like get packets from any other Halo radio?
So one of the things that I've been talking to some of the other people in the Voj staff here about is whether or not you put these in monitor mode, and I haven't tried, but from what I understand, it's probably not possible. I will say that as much as I absolutely love these, Heltech Halo dongles and kind of the DIY solution as well. God, I actually totally forgot what I was about to say. Repeat your question. Oh, that took you a minute? Oh, yeah. Okay. So I had questions about that myself, because Heltech actually sells a device that they call, so like this is the Heltech Halo dongle. They also sell a Heltech Halo AP. And I don't know what the difference is, other than they charge more for the other one. Like, I don't know if it has more RAM or memory, but I have 3 of these Halo dongles, and if I put one in AP mode, I can connect the other 2 to the AP as clients, and like then if I want to ping the one client from the other client, like as long as I haven't enabled any kind of like firewall or weird bridging or something within either of their those 2 devices, you can ping back and forth all day. So. At risk of leading you astray and telling you things that are wrong, what I've seen with my own eyes is that certainly the topology that these devices support is more than just a single point-to-point. I mean, you're absolutely like running DHCP, you're giving out IP addresses if you're the AP one. So yeah, like I think, so I know there is a mode that the Halo protocol has that's like I'm trying to think of what it's called. It's like a repeater mode that's built into like the specification of the actual protocol itself, such that you don't have to like figure out how to configure that on your own accord, and like you usually end up like cutting your observed throughput in half because only one device can transmit at a time because Wi-Fi is more of a hub than a switch. So yeah, like the 802.11 AH protocol supports this like repeater mode thing that you could theoretically put one of these devices into. I haven't seen that supported anywhere within any of the configuration options of OpenWRT. But I suppose if you want to only think of these Halo interfaces within OpenWRT the same way that you would think of the configuration abilities and levels as a regular Wi-Fi card. So like a regular Wi-Fi card, you can't set up as a weird special mode repeater with an OpenWRT. So anything that you'd be able to configure with on a regular Wi-Fi card, I would expect to be able to configure on OpenWRT with the Halo radio. Anybody? All right, well, I guess that's it for me. Thank you so much for coming.